I've been thinking about how I want to make this video for a while, which is meant to be a follow-up to my one about Roblox's secret developer network. And as some of you might know, I did already make a follow-up, but deleted it shortly afterwards. If you're wondering why, it's because I personally believe I was too aggressively biased with it, and also a lot of the information sent to me was one-sided. I always want to look at both sides, and I failed to do it in that video, that's why I deleted it. But don't worry if you didn't see it, I'll still cover a lot of the same information in this one, but just showing less bias about it. And if you did already see it, I still recommend watching this video since it's more updated, and we'll also cover some extra stuff, as well as clear up something I talked about and misrepresented in that deleted video. Before we get started, I just want to ask that you please do not send hate to anyone mentioned in this video. It's purely meant to be informative and nothing else. In the first video, one of the topics I talked about was big studios buying games off of smaller developers, why they did it, how they did it, and all that kind of stuff. To recap, when a small developer makes a game and it starts gaining traction, there are a lot of times when big studios will reach out to try and buy it off of them. And the better your game is doing, the more they'll offer for it. There are a lot of studios that do this, and it can oftentimes be detrimental for these games, especially with a noticeable amount of monetization getting added shortly after they're bought in many cases. But it can also grow the game, and in majority of cases, the original developers get to keep a share of the game and thus a percentage of the revenue, as well as some creative direction. There's both negatives and positives to the practice of buying games in this way, and the positive side usually weighs towards the original developers and development studios, and the negative side weighs towards the players of these games. As a developer myself, I don't find it to be a very good practice, and I've urged people not to sell their games if they care about them, but these studios do make it tempting, and I understand why a lot of the times newer developers will take these deals. It's not just big studios that buy games though, there's also plenty of smaller developers or studios that will buy and sell games from one another as well, through certain mediums, either they're on Discord, through DMs, or certain development Discord servers which have channels for it, or even through websites that are being made to automate the process, one of which, called Lemonade V1, lets you see the prices of each game as well as how much Robux each game has made last month after you negotiate with them. Another method some developers and development studios use to buy games is via events. For example, there's a Discord server where people will host events that are structured similarly to the show Shark Tank, and a lot of big developers and studios will participate as sharks or investors to buy games or game ideas off of smaller developers. As far as I can tell, these events are usually done privately, but one of the directors has a decently sized YouTube channel named RevolverAGZ where he did record and upload one of these events. It's definitely a bit silly, but assuming everyone's willingly participating, whatever. But some people have interpreted it as bigger studios using it as an opportunity to lowball smaller developers for unfinished ideas, which could be a fair way to look at it. Let me know what you think below though. All in all, there's a lot of developers out there who buy and sell games, and whether or not you agree with it as a practice, it'll only continue happening. I saw somewhere online that it used to be against Roblox TOS, but I can't find any evidence of it, and regardless, Roblox clearly doesn't care about it at this point in time, which I guess is understandable considering it usually increases their revenue anyways. I also just want to say I think there's absolutely times where games are bought with good intentions. There's still plenty of passionate developers and development studios out there who buy games because they do actually care about it. One example is Coffee Stain Studios buying Welcome to Bloxburg, even though there's been some backlash from the community for some of their updates and development choices. As someone who has played a decent amount of Bloxburg, I think they've done a pretty good job of keeping to the game's original style. Coffee Stain Studios has made plenty of successful non-Roblox games in the past, such as Goat Simulator, so it's pretty cool to see them dip their toes into the water, so to speak, and help establish Roblox as an actual development platform. Before we go further, I want to talk about something I covered in my deleted follow-up video. If you did watch that video, which is probably going to be a very small amount of you, you might have noticed that I've yet to mention a Discord server called Game Market, which I did talk about and criticize in that video. I want to be as transparent as possible with everyone, thus why I'm making this section. To recap the deleted video, I talked about a Discord server called Game Market with over 500 members. It's a private server centered around Roblox development and has a lot of big names in it, such as CEOs of some of these big development studios and plenty of owners of popular games. The reason I originally brought this server up is because there's a section of it that allows people to buy and sell games, but I was misled into thinking that this was the main function of the server. I mean, to be fair, it is called Game Market, but regardless, I wasn't given the full picture in the information I was sent and ended up misinforming people, which I'd never want to do. I talked to the owner of the server as well as some members from it, and they helped me realize that there was a lot more to the server and that it's more so just a general resource and discussion server for bigger developers, and buying and selling games is just a small part of it. And yes, the server existing does technically confirm that a lot of these big studios are connected in some way, but there's obviously nothing wrong with having connections and using a common server to hire people for projects and whatnot, and I don't wish to depict it in any other way. If you didn't see my original video, which is likely to be a majority of you, then you probably don't care about any of this, but I just wanted to make sure I give proper information and take accountability for not painting the full picture. I'm still fully against the scummy business practices of a number of people in this server, mainly the bigger names, but there's over 500 people, and they're all there for different reasons, so I don't wish to generalize them all as one. The people I talked to were chill, and I do apologize if I misrepresented anyone. As I mentioned before, there are a lot of big studios on Roblox that buy and sell games, and unfortunately some use predatory business practices to increase engagement and revenue. Some of these studios also have controversial pasts behind them, which I feel are worth bringing bringing up before I answer the question of whether or not the studios are the problem when it comes to pay to win being so prominent on Roblox. For example, the CEO of Dubik used to own the Roblox accounts Trimity and Games page. These Roblox accounts owned two massive roleplay games back in 2017 called Adopt and Raise a Cute Kid and Life in Paradise. These games caused a lot of controversy due to their deceptive advertisement tactics, such as giving large YouTubers like Flamingo and Dennis Daly admin commands in order to market an admin game pass that didn't actually work the same way as it did in those videos. Trimity, otherwise known as Johnny, would also tell people to subscribe to his YouTube channel and join a Roblox group to get free admin commands, but of course this wasn't true and people would only receive some items in game instead. These accounts were later terminated from the platform permanently, and fast forward to today, Johnny is currently the CEO of Dubik Studios. All this information is public on the Roblox wiki, and to be fair, I'm not saying Johnny hasn't changed, nor is this meant to slander him. I've talked to him before and he's clearly taking a more professional approach to development, and though I still disagree with some of his business practices, I'm only bringing all of this up because I feel it's information worth knowing. Another studio, Voldex, which just bought Brookhaven, also has somewhat of an estranged past. Voldex has owned a number of Minecraft server networks in the past, the most notable of which being the Archon, a somewhat controversial but well-known server that has since shut down. They still do associate with it in some ways though, as some of Voldex's funding comes from a few OG Minecraft YouTubers such as Jerome ASF and Skeppy. Overall, it's just interesting to hear about some of these studios' pasts. Obviously they all start from somewhere and not every studio has gone through old controversy. A lot of them were just formed by a few developers and got lucky to blow up. As a developer though, I just feel it's worth knowing where they come from and how they got to where they are. When talking about a surge of heavily monetized games on Roblox and development studios buying games and milking them and all that kind of stuff, I think it's worth bringing up a question of whether the studios are the problem. Obviously it sucks that a lot of games don't prioritize user experience anymore and mainly focus on analytics more than anything. However, there's also a point to bring up that this is a job for a majority of these developers. They need to make money to justify making games, and of course, that's totally fine. To an extent. And big studios also have lots of employees to pay, so it makes sense for them to focus a lot more on monetization. And yes, a lot of big studios just have higher-ups that'll do pretty much anything to make money, no matter what it means for their image. There's no denying that. That's just the majority of corporations, unfortunately. I'll stop beating around the bush though and answer the question, are the studios the problem? It's tough to give a definitive answer, but in my opinion, they are only a part of the problem, which I'll expand on in the next section. A lot of these studios are definitely in it for the money, yes, but there's still plenty of passionate developers behind a lot of these big games that have been bought out or blow up that unfortunately get overshadowed by their necessity to focus on monetization and engagement more than anything. So what is the main problem when it comes to pay to win being so prominent on Roblox? Well, Roblox itself. Roblox plays a massive part in causing games to be monetization focused. Well, yes, these studios and developers are the ones making and implementing all of these game passes, developer products, and whatever else. Roblox is the one incentivizing them to do it. Roblox's algorithm promotes games based on engagement and revenue more than anything. Is this surprising? Of course not, but if you're ever on Roblox and wonder why a lot of the games on the front page feel the same, that's because a majority of them are catering to the algorithm as much as possible. Unfortunately, it is very difficult to get your game out there as a developer if you're not focused on revenue, following trends, and prioritizing engagement, and that's why you do see a lot of these bigger studios focusing on those things. Well, yes, the main reason is just because it makes money. There's also the plus of Roblox promoting the game and getting more people to play it. The way I see it, this algorithm's pretty good for established developers as long as you're okay with putting a good amount of monetization in your game. But for players, the algorithm is far from focused on user experience, unfortunately. I don't play Roblox that much anymore, I mainly focus on development, but when I do try to play, it's definitely difficult to find something I genuinely feel is worth my time to play. And as for smaller developers, the algorithm is definitely not in their favor. There's so many incredible games out there by passionate developers that are just buried under this algorithm because they don't cater to it, and that really sucks to see. Now, to be clear, I obviously don't think studios that are heavily monetizing their games are innocent just because Roblox wants them to do it. They obviously have the choice not to, and it's completely fair to criticize them for insanely overpriced products. It's still worth noting though that not doing this would negatively impact their game and possibly get them less players, which in general just sucks that it works that way. So to expand on my answer from before, I definitely believe Roblox is one of the main ones to blame when it comes to pay to win being so prominent on the platform. The studios and developers following along are still partly to blame, but most of the time they're just following what works best to get their games out there and keep players coming back. I have no doubt a lot of developers would much rather actually focus on player experience, and there's still plenty of games out there that manage to balance both. There's definitely a number of good games on the front page, and there's obviously a reason a lot of them blow up. Overall though, it's just not a great algorithm. Not because it doesn't work, because as we've seen, it works pretty damn well, but because it just seemingly does not have players and smaller developers in mind. And no matter how many people catch on, there's still going to be a lot of new players and developers joining Roblox every day. And also a majority of Roblox players are children who just don't give a shit about any of this, so that's basically where it ends. So what is there to take away from all of this? Well, a lot of different things, and that's why I'm going to leave it up to you to decide what the main conclusion is here. I presented a ton of information about Roblox development that I've discovered discovered from my time as a developer, and I have no doubt different people are going to have different opinions on it, or maybe not. I'm not going to tell you what to think though. I've given my opinions and I want to hear yours. As I mentioned a few times, I myself am also a developer. I made a fun little single player game called Ultimate Town Sandbox. Go check it out, and also feel free to check out the trailer and preview for a multiplayer version of the game I'm working on that parodies some of the stuff I've talked about in these videos. It'll hopefully be out soon. Also, I just want to say this is probably the last time I'll talk about this topic. I've said pretty much everything necessary, but I might make more commentary videos about other topics in the future, so if you did enjoy this one, be sure to like and subscribe to let me know. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.